I want to start out with something, and I'm quite sure you know it. If you don't, you just follow along. To make sure, everyone can do this. So thank you for that one. Can we add the clap? It's gonna. I mean, you know when preachers clap with a mic and it goes. I don't want to do that. So can we do that? Okay, so you're running with that. No, I don't think you should stop. It's just, okay, so you warmed up. You know where we're going. Clearly you know where we're going. And they're like, we're really going there. Yes, we're going there. Here you go. So, just start out again. You've got mud on your face, big disgrace. Somebody better put you back into your place. That was fantastic. I could see there's a few faces. It's like, I am in the wrong place today. Anyway, so I heard somewhere it's good to do an icebreaker. Anyway, I don't know if you noticed, but Psalms aren't really polite religious poetry. Not really. I know, okay, there's someone thinking about Psalm 23. I mean, there is this little moment where you walk in the darkness, right? And there is that moment where you've got the enemies, but it resolves. Goodness and mercy shall follow me all of my days of my life. I mean, that's fantastic. So that's great. I know most of you read the Psalms every day, and I'm running out of space. And this is definitely one of your favorites. I'm sure you're guessing already which one I'm going to read right now, because it's just pristine. It's magic. But it takes us kind of like to the point where Psalms really kind of get a little bit gritty. Now, I'm reading it out of the Message. It's a psalm. I think psalms work so well in the Message. When you do, thank you. Maybe I ran into it. When you do read the psalm, I mean, if you do proper Bible study, you've got like a very literal translation with you. But please have the Message with you. I'm going to read the Message simply because it's just a little bit closer to home. It's less up there. God, you're my last chance of the day. I spent the night on my knees before you. Put me on your salvation agenda. Take notes on the trouble I'm in. I've had my fill of trouble. I'm camped on the edge of hell. That's so beautiful, right? I'm written off as a lost cause. One more statistic, a hopeless cause. Abandoned as already dead. One more body on a stack of corpses. And not so much as a gravestone. I'm a black hole in oblivion. You've dropped me into a bottomless pit, sunk me into a pitch black abyss. I'm battered, senseless by your rage, relentlessly, pounded by your waves of anger. You turned my friends against me, made me horrible to them. I'm caught in a maze and I can't find my way out, blinded by tears of pain and frustration. I'm halfway You really feel uplifted by now, right? I mean, but it gets better. I call to you, God, all day I call. I wring my hands, I plead for help. Are the dead a live audience to your miracles? Do ghosts ever join the choirs that praise you? Does your love make any difference in the graveyard? Is your faithful presence noticed in the corridors of hell? Are your marvelous wonders ever seen in the dark? Your righteous ways noticed in the land of no memory? I'm standing my ground, God, shouting for help. At my prayers every morning, on my knees each daybreak. Why, God, why do you turn a deaf ear? Why do you make yourself scarce? For as long as I can remember, I've been hurting. I've taken the worst you can hand out, and I've had it. This is in the Bible, so by the way. Your wildfire anger has blazed through my life. I'm bleeding, black and blue. You've attacked me fiercely from every side, raining down blows till I'm nearly dead. You made lover and neighbor alike dump me. The only friend that I have left is darkness. And that's where it stops. I think we underestimate the depth of emotion in the Psalms. I think we underestimate the value of the Psalms. So, that was a bit heavy. Before we jump around in the Psalms too much, I want to take you into the structure of the Psalms today. And every now and then I'm going to allude to the structure, specifically because I think there is so much in the design of the book that we tend to miss. And a lot of the message is locked up in that. So, the big picture. From what I could gather, the Psalms were written over a period of about 1,000 years. And the last one was written somewhere about 400 BC. BC always confuses me. So just to kind of like put that in perspective, the Babylonian exile was about 538, 536 BC. So they're back from exile. The whole exile happened, and the exile was quite tough, which we will see now. The effect of the Babylonian exile on the Israelites and their walk with God was actually profound. And I know Jan mentioned some of that last week. I don't know if you were here. He really went into quite proper depth with that. But if you think about it, the ark traveled with Israel from Exodus. The ark came along. Then they had kind of like that... and for a moment I just ran out of English, that sanctuary thing they had in the desert, the tent of meeting. Tabernacle. I knew it was a T, but not temple. So they had the tabernacle, and I mean, eventually that turned into another T, the temple, and then when the Babylonians came, the temple and the ark, gone. This thing that they've been in the core of their religion was just wiped out. They had a problem. And during the time of Babylon and so on, their worship, their focus, the core of how they approached God, moved away from a temple and a tabernacle and a ark to text. Another T. Didn't plan that one. To text. And in this text, we find kind of the structure of the psalm kind of like came over many years. But it was finalized in that period, just after the exile. that the book of Psalms turned into 5 books. Did you know the book of Psalm is divided into 5 books? Yeah, I mean, Jan mentioned that as well last week. So it's got 5 books in it. Now, where's the other time you know about 5 important books in the Bible? Torah. So it's by design that they put it into 5 books, simply because they wanted to give this thing weight. They wanted to kind of like draw your attention to what's written in this book. This is important. This is as important to some extent as the Torah. I'll tell you why now. To a large extent, the Torah is God speaking to man. But what makes the Psalms different than most of the other books in any way is it's man speaking to God. A lot of that is just, God, I'm pleading for this moment, and I mean, out of 88, it's just a proper rant. It's like, I mean, if you read it in the King James, then you know what a proper rant sounds like in High English. It's man speaking to God. But it's still Scripture. And it's Scripture because it is man inside of a covenantal relationship speaking with God. And I want to take you into some of that, so let me not run ahead of myself. So for the people that compiled the 5 books of the Psalms, but I'm going to refer to the book of Psalms, the complete, they wanted to just give a little hint. Say, okay, pay attention how you need to read this. So Psalm 1 takes us to how you need to read this book, and Psalm 2 gives us a frame of to say, this is the glasses you need to use, and this framing is God is king, and there's a Messiah coming. So I'm quickly going to read that to you. The other thing is, I'm reading out of a translation that leans towards a more Jewish language. The reason for that being is in our translation, we kind of like read law, and we just think, oh yeah, no, law. Now, to try and pull you back into that original audience, I'm reading this, and you can hear where the compilers of the Psalms started to prod and say, pay attention. You see the structure says 5 books, and you need to pay attention to this in the same level as to the Torah. How blessed are those, Psalm 1, who reject the advice of the wicked, who don't stand in the way of sinners or sit where scoffers sit. Their delight is in Adonai's Torah. On his Torah they meditate day and night. They are like trees planted by streams. They bear fruit in season. Their leaves never wither. Everything they do succeeds. Not so with the wicked, who are like chaff driven by the wind. For this reason the wicked won't stand up in the day of judgment, nor the sinners at the gathering of the righteous. For Adonai watches over them, the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. So there's this reference, pay attention, this is like the Torah. On the second psalm, it says, okay, and it gives a bit of a framing. And when you read the Psalms, you'll hear that when they speak to God, they say, but God, aren't you the one that saves? Aren't you the one that does this? Aren't you the one that kind of like destroys my enemies and all of that? And Psalm 2 kind of like frames that to kind of like set you up for this is kind of like the bounds of the conversation. Why are the nations in uproar? The people grumbling in vain. The earth's kings are taking positions. The leaders conspiring together against Adonai and his anointed. They cry, let's break their fetters, let's throw off their chains. He who sits in heaven laughs. Adonai looks at them in derision. Then in his anger he rebukes them, terrifies them in his fury. I myself have installed my king in Zion, my holy mountain. I will proclaim the decree. Adonai said to me, you are my son. Today I became your father. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your inheritance. The whole wide world will be your possession. You will break them with an iron rod, shatter them like a clay pot. Therefore, kings, be wise. Be warned, you judges of the earth. Serve Adonai with fear. Rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he may be angry, and you perish along the way, when suddenly his anger blazes. How blessed are all those who take refuge in him. All of those themes kind of like show up again. And this frames kind of like the expectation for the rest of the book of Psalms. So, another thing I want to put in there, a lot of the Psalms is also a response to the Torah, to the 5 books. It's one thing to get these neatly packed laws. It's another thing to experience it in reality and to live it out. And that's, I think you'll see a tension there between almost what's in the book in Torah and how we experience like real life in the Psalms. Now, I want to draw your attention to 2 specific things in the Psalms. The first is the structure of the Psalms. So we've spoken about the structure of the books. Now I want to take you to the structure of the Psalms. Now, this book belongs to the genre of Hebrew poetry. And that's not a surprise to anyone. And we're familiar with poetry, right? Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. Yeah. Not really what Psalms are like. Psalms are more like, don't go into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. That's a bit more like Psalms, right? It's a bit more gusto. So I know we tend to look at poetry in that way, but very few of us can read it in the original Hebrew. So all of the rhyme and most of that stuff is lost to us. But what I want to take you to today is, what do we get in our English or Afrikaans or whatever translation you have? What's still in that translation we get there? And Hebrew poetry is also a bit different than what we used, the typical poetry we have. For instance, the most dominant characteristic of Hebrew poetry is a literary device known as poetic parallelism, which can be expressed in a variety of ways: morphological, syntactical, grammatical, lexical, or phonological. That sounds so heavy. And parallelisms can be expressed in word pairs, such as nouns, verbs, positive and negative, subjects and objects, and even moods. That was for all the Bible nerds and linguists out there. They can go like, wow, that's fancy. In its most basic form, so the rest of us, the author makes a statement in the first line. And the second line expresses some type of relationship to the first. Parallelism. It's fancy. Now, so what makes that quite amazing is, if you read the Message, if you read most of the translations, the psalmist is rhyming with thoughts. He's playing with words, but we're losing that because we can't read the Hebrew. But he's rhyming with thoughts. And we can pick up on that parallelism because if it's a proper translation, the thoughts will still rhyme. And that's something that you can pick up in your translation whenever you read that. So the moment I started noticing that pattern, I started realizing, wait a minute, I see that. How blessed are those who reject the advice of the wicked. Don't stand on the way of sinners or sit where the scoffers sit. So if you're not sitting with them, you are rejecting the advice. They are walking in parallels, like, oh, okay, I can see there's something there. Let's go to the sturdy message. God, you are my last chance of the day. I spend the night on my knees before you. Put me on your salvation agenda. Take notes of the trouble I'm in. So I'm spending time before you. Take notes. You're my last chance. Put me on your salvation. There's a parallelism happening there. And immediately when you start reading the psalm, you can see, oh, wait a minute, I can actually dig into what this guy is saying. Now, there's a lot more depth into Hebrew poetry, but I'm going to stick to parallelisms for that. Does that make sense? I'm sure you're going to start seeing that now. The second thing I want to draw your attention to in the Psalms are body parts. Yes, not like CSI, but body parts. So, how many Psalms do you think have body parts in them? Eyes, ears, mouths, foot, heart, flesh, bone, head. We can skip the Psalms with wings in them. We don't have wings. Any guess? This is like a poll, so you can kind of like shout out something. I've got 100 there, I've got 100, do I have 100, 110, 110, do I have 110, do I have 100? 97. 90%. Did you look at my notes, dude? Anyway, yes, there are roughly 15 Psalms without body parts. 15. Roughly, more or less, depending on your translation. 15. So if they're all over the place, why do you want to go and hunt for them? Because the moment you start hunting for them, you start actually picking up something of the emotion they're talking about. So body parts, if my English does not leave me, is visceral. Huh? Fancy word. Visceral. It's right here. So the moment something talks about body parts, it's close. I need to go to the next page. We experience and we express through our bodies. And I believe there's a strong connection between the amount of visceral language in the Psalms and the amount of raw emotions contained in the Psalms. So, keep that thought. I want to zoom out for a moment. Structure thing again. The Psalms are part of the poetic and wisdom books. They're basically the following: Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Psalms, and Song of Songs. If I can take every one of those books and in one sentence try to describe your position as reader in those books, it will be something in the following. In Job, you're the spectator on a gallery. You're watching, and there's a lot of raw emotion, and there's a lot of stuff, but you're a spectator. In Proverbs, you're the pupil. You're sitting, you're listening. You're the son, the father is speaking. In Ecclesiastes, you're the confidant to the disillusioned leader. And he's just telling you about this absolute disillusion. There's a lot of raw emotion, but you're the confidant. In Song of Songs, you're a bit of a voyeur. You're an eavesdropper. That's probably more church language, right? You're an eavesdropper. What are you in Psalms? Yes. Someone else had looked at my notes. You're the speaker. You're a participant. And the moment you become a participant, you're inside of it. Your position changes completely. So this is just fancy. Job, observation. Proverbs, instruction. Ecclesiastes, reflection. Psalms, participation. And Song of Songs, longing. Every emotion shows up in the Psalms, and you're a participant in that. Let me flip that. Every emotion shows up in the Psalms, and the Psalms help me to participate. The other morning, it was still dark, which means it could be anything between 2 and 4. Our youngest son walks into the room, and obviously it goes for the mom first. I mean, Mom? Yes? My nose is broken. Okay. I mean, you go from La La Land to, huh? Kom hier, what's fout? Oh, super congested is the word you're looking for. Stuffy. Yes, it's broken. No air is going through. So he's 3. He does not have the vocabulary yet to express his experience, nor does he have the framework to know how to deal with it. The Psalms meet you right where you are, takes you through some of the most candid and honest conversations with God. They teach you that grief and rage and doubt can be expressed in conversations with God. You've read those Psalms. Smite my enemies, bash them against rocks. Right? And if you continue a little bit on, in that same one, it says, and I give it over to you, God. I surrender the rage and the anger to you. It's one thing to say in the Torah, do not commit murder. But it's another thing to say in the Psalms, smite my enemies and rage. That's how I feel. But in relationship with God, because I'm a follower of God, I give this over to you, God. The book of Psalms teaches to feel that deeply in the presence of God and gives you the words to do it. And if you think about this, this is not common practice in any other faith that I'm aware of. Maybe the Rasha Christi guys can help me with that, but this is not common practice in the surrounding nations. That you can talk to the creator of the universe and rage. It's not common practice. On this visceral journey through the Psalms, there's one more thing I want to point out regarding the structure of the book. You may have noticed that the Psalms contain a lot of lament and then praise. I loved how Jan, like the short J. Jan took us last week to Psalm 74, and Psalm 74 is also a very dark psalm. The first third is just like, this is heavy and a lot of emotion, and then the last third is like heavy and a lot of emotion, and there's a structure moment again. And right in the middle of all of the heavy and a lot of emotion, there's this praise that happens. This moment of reaching out to God. where we can go like, my circumstances are terrible, I'm aware that God is great, but I still come back to my circumstances and they're still terrible. But in all of this, the center of everything is still God. So that happens, but there's another kind of like, there's a golden thread happening through all the Psalms in the form this is designed into it. In the first half of the Psalms, more or less, the Psalms start out weighted more towards lament and a little bit of praise. I mean, we just read Psalm 1 and 2, right? No? Psalm 3, first line. Adonai, how many enemies I have. It's like, okay, cool. Thank you for the introduction. I have many enemies. Help me. So it starts out with actually a lot of lament. And I mean, by Psalm 88, where it's really dark, and then 90 and so on, it starts shifting. But I don't know if you've reached Psalm 145, 46, 7. I mean, that's just solid praise. That's just like, we're done with the lament. That's solid praise. It's designed that if you walk through this journey in the Psalms and you read it front to back, that it's going to take you from lament to praise. It's going to take you through the Torah. It's going to take you through the covenant. It's going to take you through all of that. It's going to take you through real experiences, real moments that happen, but it's going to take you from lament to praise. The biggest dishonor you can do the Psalms is to kind of like just cherry pick. Go there. I mean, there are those days where you're just like very happy, and you read a lament psalm, you're like, whoa, heavy on me. And the other side happens like a very dark day, and then this guy is just like chirpy and bouncy, and like, trust the process. Oh yeah, the title is When Astrophysicist Writes a Psalm. Let's go there. You want to go there? So, what happens when an astrophysicist writes a psalm? Brian, after studying physics and mathematics, and actually signed up for a PhD in astrophysics in 1970 to 1974, he started with his PhD, and then kind of like work and life happened, and he picked up the studies again 33 years later. So somewhere was it like 2006, Brian signed up again for astrophysics PhD. He continued his work, and a year later he gave in his thesis, and he got a PhD in astrophysics. That's Brian. So obviously, if someone has that level of commitment, they're not doing a PhD because they want to get somewhere in life. They're doing a PhD because they are really interested in this stuff. And I don't know, all the PhD people in here, writing a PhD in a year, that's like proper, ne? It's like legit. Anyway. In that process, so in the hiatus, he actually worked on some projects after that with NASA. Anyway, so I'm going to take you to the psalm he wrote. In 1977, him and his mate, they were in a band, and when they walked off stage, the crowd sang one of their songs back to them, and they were just like blown away. I thought, this never happened before. This is amazing. And him and his friend, they decided, okay, let's write songs the crowd can do. And Freddie, his mate, wrote We Are the Champions. And he decided, no, wait a minute. I want to write a song where everyone can take part. But most people don't have instruments. He thought, okay, wait a minute. What instruments do people have? They've got feet, they've got hands, and they've got voices. So he thought, okay, going to do that. So he wrote, "We Will Rock You." Brian May from the band Queen. And that became something that at every event and so on, they would play "We Will Rock You" and then "We Are the Champions." Very interesting. I mean, now actually if you go online, I tried to search, it was a bit difficult, but "We Will Rock You" outperforms the Champions about double most of the time in terms of views and so on. Interesting. These songs created an experience in a crowd of participation. It moved them from being a crowd to being a congregation. I mean, from being a crowd to being participants. So I want to take you to Psalm 121, because there's something in the Psalms that I think we need to take out of that. It's a song of ascent. It's a song where we are either going up to the temple. There are various commentaries on that. And the moment you actually go and read about it, it's people in their daily lives use it for so many stuff. But it's a bit of a pilgrimage song. And this, you remember from the parable of the the Good Samaritan. Remember from the parable of the Good Samaritan, he was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and there was robbers. So nobody in the crowd said, "Oh, Jesus, that's not, roads are safe." No. Everyone like, "Oh, yeah, that happens." So if you're on a pilgrimage, there are robbers. And you need to kind of check it out. And especially if you're going out, they've got the vantage point, and you need to kind of be on your lookout. But while you're on your lookout and you're looking to the top of the hills, you also see all the shrines and all the other gods and so on. And in that kind of time, gods were they were like gangsters. They had their space, their area of this is where we mob kind of thing. So that's how people thought about gods. So there's another god here and there's another shrine there. So they would look up to these hills, and then this rhetorical question would kind of come out. Says, if I look up to the hills, where will my help come from? Now imagine if you're walking in a group, and someone kind of looks up, and I see this picture. I don't know if this is the picture I see, okay? And the first guy is I raise up my eyes to the hills. Eyes. Did you checking out the body parts? Eyes. From where will my help come from? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. And then all of a sudden there's a switch. He will not let your foot. So it's is it one of the companions that tells me while I'm walking and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, oh, where does my help come from? He's he will not let your foot strong. You won't fall. So immediately they are singing this to each other, at least in my mind. No? That's how I see it. He will not let your foot slip. Your guardian is not asleep. No, the guardian of Israel never sleeps. Adonai is your guardian at your right hand. Adonai provides you with shade. The sun can't strike you during the day, nor the moon at night. Thought. Adonai will guard you against all harm. He will guard your life. Adonai will guard your coming and your going from now and forever. On the stadium anthems, the We Will Rock Yous and all of those, we experience something of community, we experience something of unity in the audience. But the moment I'm in the practice of the Psalms and we experience community and all of that, there's a difference. In the stadium, I'm drawn into an identity of we. It's horizontal. I get my identity and my strength from those around me. But the moment I'm in a crowd that moves to a congregation moment where we sing together in the Psalms, I don't get my identity on a horizontal level. I get my identity from God. The Psalms seek to align the human heart with the divine will, getting our identity on a vertical axis. But there's something that Brian May and them got right, why I attribute it to a psalm, that Freddie did not get right with We Are the Champions. The song was simple enough that it could be taken anywhere. Even here this morning. Even here this morning, there was something in that immediately were like, we just started here and someone was like, that's where we're going. The Psalms empower us to take a temple experience anywhere and meet with God on any topic, any challenge, and any emotion. Because even protest, when it's addressed to God, is a form of faith. I want to take you into another psalm. This psalm has been slightly rearranged for a more Western audience, but it's still a psalm. And in this psalm we're going to sing now, I want you to experience the audience, experience what it means to sing a psalm together. Experience what it means when we talk about our God. It's not just me, it's a community thing. But the biggest thing is the stadium anthem leaves you on your own at the end of the event. Whereas the psalm leaves you in the presence of God.